Hi everyone, welcome to Sweet Annie's of Maine's first live broadcast. I had a couple of suggestions about cupcakes that people wanted to learn how to make, and I think by far what people wanted to see the most of were the key lime pie cupcakes, so that's what I'm going to be showing you today. The ingredients that you'll need for this, for the white cake, you're going to need flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, milk, vegetable oil, a little bit of lime juice, 3 egg whites, about 1/3 cup of sour cream, and a 1/4 stick of butter. Sorry, I should know this by heart. I can make these in my sleep. For the exact measurements, I'll be posting that later. So for now, if you just want to get a rough idea of what you'll need. For the actual crumb crust, which for a lot of people is by far their favorite part of the cupcake, you're going to need graham crackers, granulated sugar, and butter. And what I like to do for the graham cracker crust is I usually go by rule of 2s. So you know how graham crackers come in those sleeves, usually they're about 3 sleeves in a box. So I'll take 2 of those sleeves, or 2 packages of graham crackers, crush those up, usually with a rolling pin. My husband was the one that gave me that idea. At first I was actually taking a glass and banging on the counter, which he didn't think was the best idea. So he was the one that suggested the rolling pin. Very smart idea. Roll those up till they're really fine, put them in a bowl, and then you'll need about 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. You'll mix that up with the graham crackers, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take 2 sticks of butter. I usually just melt them in the microwave, and you pour the butter into the bowl with the graham crackers and the sugar, and you stir it until it's kind of got the sort of consistency where if you needed to pat it down, you could do that, which is what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to pat them down into the cupcake foils. So I did go ahead and I got the graham cracker mixture ready. As you can see, it's just a bunch of graham crackers ground up with some sugar. And let's see, I have my butter here, so I'm going to go ahead and pour this butter right in. I didn't use the exact measurements for this example just because I've actually made a lot of key lime pie already today. So this is just what I had left over. So pour that in. There we go. And stick this in here. Okay, grab a spoon and you're gonna mix it until it's got sort of a more clumpy consistency. And I actually did want to take this second here while I'm mixing this up, just to say that usually when I'm cooking for clients, I wear like a lunch lady hairnet and gloves. I did not want to wear the hairnet when I'm on live TV, but I do wear that. One of my biggest pet peeves is the thought that something from my kitchen would get into my customer's food. I would not be happy and the customer would not be happy. So here I have actually my big thing of lunch lady hairnets. I'm not going to put one on, but I think I have like 500 in here, so every order gets a new hairnet. Okay, so go ahead and mix this up. And I think this is, because this is live, I think I should be able to see what people are saying. I don't really know too much how live works, so I guess I'll just look at it later and see what the comments are. Yeah, I don't know how else to see that right now. I'm not too technologically savvy, so alright. So we mix this up till it's nice and clumpy. So I've already put my tins in my muffin pan here. I have to say, if you bake a lot, it's really worth it to get one of the muffin tins that has the 24 holders in it, as opposed to doing, like if you're doing 2 dozen. It's kind of a pain to have to do your dozen, let everything cool down, and then do it all over again. So with 24, you can just do 2 dozen at once. I think that that's really useful. So we mix this all up. And I usually do like a big heaping spoonful, because I love the graham cracker crust. I'd rather have too much graham cracker crust than too little, and people tend to love the graham cracker crust as well. So we take a big spoonful, usually like a tablespoonful, just dump it right in. I usually just do all of my spoonfuls at once. I'm not going to do all of these. I'm trying to expedite everything just so you guys can get an idea of how they're made. And I'll show you what that looks like. But usually, like, I would say I fill up 1/3 of the muffin tin with the graham cracker. and then pat it down. Again, I usually wear gloves for this, so don't worry, it's not my bare fingers on your cupcakes. These are actually going to be for my family, so they don't mind if I do this, but all right, so we pat everything down. You don't have to pat it down too hard, just hard enough so it's really like a crust. You don't want it to be coming apart when someone bites into it. And you'll know if you used enough butter because it will pat down. If you don't use enough butter, they can get kind of dry, and you'll just feel like you're pressing down on graham cracker crumbs, not that it's really like a crust. So if that's the case, you can always just add like another 1/4 cup of melted butter. It's not like an exact science, but I rarely really measure anything, so I had to go back and think about what I use for all of my recipes when I was thinking about making this video. So there you go. So they're all patted down. I've already made my white cake because, like I said, I've probably made a couple dozen key lime pies already this morning for different customers. So this is some more of my white cake. White cake is super, super simple to make. White cake is basically just yellow cake without the eggs, which I thought was funny when I originally found that out. When I started baking, I was thinking yellow cake was like this special, that had these special ingredients, or that it was like an entirely separate kind of cake, but yellow cake is really just white cake with the egg yolks. So for my white cake, I usually use 3 egg whites, and I really, I don't use an electric mixer for it. I don't find it necessary. I just take a fork and I whip it for like a minute or two. So I've got my white cake here. Again, I will put on my website what the ingredients are for the white cake. It's a really super simple recipe that I use for like my cheesecake, and I use for my lemon drop cupcakes are basically just white cake with some limoncello in it and a little bit of yellow natural coloring. So I've got my white cake. I have found the ice cream scoop to be really invaluable when it comes to scooping batter into cups. This used to have a little spring on it, but I actually used this so much in making cupcakes that the spring like wore off or just stopped working. So it's really fine to just use it without the spring. This is just a regular ice cream scoop. So because there's a graham cracker crust already in the tin, I really only need about like half a scoop of the actual batter, which means the batter is going to go a lot further than if you didn't have the crust. So let me get a scoop here. And it's not an exact science. I usually fill it like 3/4 of the way full. So I'm going to pour this in here. All right, again, I'm just doing a few to expedite everything because I don't think it would be entertaining to see me do 24 of these. So anyway, here's a few. Okay, so I've got my batter in there. I'm gonna put them in at 350 for roughly 19 to 20 minutes. I do like to undercook them just a hair because I do core them, and so the center does not need to be like totally cooked. Everything is perfectly cooked. It's still totally safe. There are no raw eggs that are gonna make you sick. But again, when I do fill my cupcakes, I probably undercook them by like a minute or so. And that actually keeps them super moist if you do freeze them that way. When they do defrost, it's really just like having fresh cupcakes. So I'm gonna put these in the oven here for about 20 minutes. I did 21 minutes this morning on another batch, and it was like the tiniest bit overcooked in my opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and do 20 minutes for these. So, like I said, I did cook some this morning. So here are some that are already made. I did already core them, as you can see. It's a rather large core. For key lime and for my cheesecake cupcakes, the filling is really like the best part for a lot of people. So I do have a smaller core that I do for like minis, or if it's like a super strong filling like tiramisu, I'll just do the small core. This is the large core. It's pretty big. You can get them on Amazon. It actually comes with a small core inside of it that you can take out, and it's only like a few bucks. So I actually have several ones of these. So to core a cupcake, it's obviously not rocket science. You don't need PhD to know how to do it. But the easiest way to do it, I found, is to kind of like take the cupcake and twist it upside down like this. And you wouldn't think the gravity would really help you, but it kind of does. I don't know how. But you twist it, so you stick it in, and you want to twist it until you can feel the graham cracker crust, and you'll be able to feel it. It's because the core won't go any further. You twist it, and then it actually, if you pull it out at the tiniest bit of an angle, you actually get the whole core. If you don't get the whole core, I like to, like I said, entirely core it. So I'll actually take this little melon scoop here, which you can use for like so many different things in baking. It's an extremely versatile tool. I take this little melon, I think it's called a melon baller. Anyway, and I actually scoop out the extra until you just have the graham cracker crust in there. And if you're just starting out and you're not sure if you're undercooking or overcooking, you'll know if you've overcooked it because the crust will, it kind of won't smell right, and the graham cracker crust will look just like a little bit too dark. So you want it to be this nice brown color. All right, so we've gone ahead and we've cored all of our cupcakes. The next thing that we do is we get our key lime pie filling, which is for a lot of people on top of the crust, their favorite part of the cupcake. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my filling, which I made earlier. So excuse me for one moment. All right, so the filling, the key lime pie filling is super, super, super simple. It is 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese, which is like most Philadelphia cream cheeses come just in that 8-ounce package. It needs to sit at room temperature for like at least a couple hours. It's safe. I've never had any problems doing that. I know that it says cream cheese must be refrigerated, but I've eaten so much cream cheese that it sat out for a couple hours and I've been totally fine. Because you need it to get super soft. You put the cream cheese in a bowl and you're gonna add 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. I think they usually come in 14-ounce little cans. That's just whole sweetened condensed milk. And then whip that up together with a whipper, and then you're gonna add about like 4 to 6 ounces of lime juice, which I think comes out to about 2/3 cup. So you just whip that up with an electric mixer. If you don't have an electric mixer, you can still do it. It's just gonna take longer. I would highly recommend investing in an electric mixer. I think they're like $30 at Target, and it's gonna save you a lot of time, and the consistency is just gonna be overall better. So whip that up for like a minute or so. It's gonna seem really runny, but you're gonna set it in the refrigerator, and it sets maybe in like an hour or so, and you'll know because you'll take your fork and it just will feel thicker. So you want it to be super thick. So I've already gone ahead and I've made my filling. Because I do bake so much, I have to label like everything with masking tape because a lot of the things look super similar, like the cream cheese filling, and just a lot of stuff looks the same. So if I didn't label everything, I'd have to taste everything, which isn't the end of the world, but I don't really want to do that. So I label everything with masking tape. This one just says KP filling. It's my, like short lingo for key lime pie filling. So I have that. The way that you can actually put these in the cupcakes, there are several different ways to do it. I have found that pastry bags are really, the easiest way to do that. And so what you'll do is you'll grab your pastry bag, which I have right over here. And I just have, you don't necessarily need the tip on the end of this. You can just cut a hole in the bag. These bags are really cheap. I get them by the 100 for, like $5 or $6. Go through so many of them. I should probably buy them by the 1,000, or at least get reusable ones, but just for the sake of convenience, I use these. This is just a Wilton round tip. I think it's like the 1A round tip. So all these tips have these different names, which is super confusing at first, but I only use like 5 or 6 different tips, so I know to refer to it as like 1M or 2D, but this is a 1A, just a round regular tip. So you cut your hole in your bag, you stick your tip in. Maybe some of you have done this before. When I started making cupcakes, I had never used the pastry bag, I'd never used the pastry tip. It was kind of a nightmare, so I had to figure it out as I went along. It's all really easy. You can teach yourself how to do all of this. You don't need to go to professional culinary arts school or cooking school. Just have fun and try certain things out. You can find obviously almost anything online, so that's what I did for a lot of this. So let me grab I have this huge scooper here. I'm just going to use that to scoop in my filling, and I'm only going to do a little bit of the filling because I really just want to get through the process here. So got our filling. And I usually put the bag in a cup. It's a lot easier if you have it like this. If you're just trying to like manhandle it with one hand and then pour in the filling with the other hand, it gets really messy really fast. So I would highly recommend just using a cup. Okay, so we'll put our filling over here for later. All right, So we've got our filling. Again, this is just cream cheese, sweetened condensed milk, and lime juice, which you can find in the, I guess it's in the juice section of the store. For a while I was looking all around the baking section, but it's usually just in the juice section, like right next to iced tea and whatnot. So, and it's pretty cheap. Okay, you can definitely try to do your own lime juice, but that would take a really long time and that would be more expensive. So you just, basically I usually put the tip at the bottom, right on top of the crust, and I just squeeze it. I go over a little bit just like this because it does settle down. So yeah, you just go ahead and fill all your cupcakes. It really doesn't take that long at all. You've got your nice filled cupcakes, and the next thing that you want to do is you want to frost them. Now for me personally, because I do get a lot of orders, what I'll do sometimes is I'll just do all my cupcakes and I cover them in saran wrap, and then I'll come back the next day and I'll frost them. And then just by covering them in saran wrap, it keeps them really moist. And another note about that, when you are defrosting them, I would defrost them actually just in the saran wrap. A lot of people will take the cupcakes out and like set them on the counter to defrost them, whether or not they're frozen or just in the fridge. Just defrost them in the plastic itself, because that way the moisture will be retained, and it really does taste like they were just baked, even if you're eating it the next day. So, all right. So for the frosting, I love making frosting. I used to dread it only because all these different recipes had like all of these different cups of sugar ratio to butter, to milk, to cream. I just highly simplified everything. So now all my buttercream frosting is 1 bag of powdered sugar. I think it comes out to like 7 cups, and 4 sticks of butter. So that probably seems like a lot. A lot of recipes will just have like 1 stick of butter to 1 bag of powdered sugar. And what I found with doing that high ratio of sugar is that the frosting really wasn't as soft as I wanted it to be. Buttercream is a little bit harder than like, you know, your Duncan Hines frosting that you're gonna get in the baking aisle of your store, but I still like for it to be soft. So by adding more butter, it definitely makes it a little creamier. Again, the more powdered sugar you use, the stiffer the frosting is gonna be. So if you were doing like ornamental decorations, like I love doing pastry leaves or roses, it is beneficial to use more sugar, because that way if they are sitting out, they're not going to become very droopy, whereas when you do ornaments with more of the butter, they'll look pretty for like half an hour, but then because it's butter, they do start to get like a little bit soft. So anyway, buttercream frosting. For my lime buttercream frosting, I'll take my 4 sticks of butter that have been sitting out, usually for a couple hours. I whip them up with my electric mixer, which I don't know how I would do this without a mixer. I'm sure people do it, I just don't know why. So whip that up until it's nice and creamy. I usually add like half the bag of powdered sugar. Whip that up until it's all mixed with the butter, and then add the other half. For the lime buttercream, what I do is I usually add, I think it's like 5 to 6 tablespoons of lime juice. So you can do it like 3 tablespoons after your first addition of sugar, and then 3 after the rest of the bag, just to keep everything moist. It can get a little messy too if you're not adding a little bit of liquid when you're mixing up your frosting. I've had powdered sugar like pretty much all over everything. My husband knows when I've been baking, even if I try to clean it perfectly, because there'll always be like the tiniest bit of powdered sugar on who knows what. It's hard to clean up powdered sugar when it gets everywhere. So for the lime buttercream, I do have that ready. I do add about, I would say it's like a half a tablespoon of lime zest, so you do actually need fresh limes for this. Either 1 or 2 limes. I actually, if I'm making a bigger batch, I'll do 2 limes. Just grate that up with a citrus grater. I don't know if that's what it's called. Excuse me, let me see if I can even find this. Here it is. My mother-in-law bought this for me. It's for grating. She bought it for me for grating lemons because I love making lemon bread, but it obviously grates limes too. So I would recommend that instead of like a regular grater. This is specifically for citrus fruit, so you'll get a lot of the good zest that way. Mix that all up, and then really you just need like 3 or 4 drops of food coloring. Green food coloring, you can just buy it, actually buy the bottle in the like in the spice section of the grocery store. And I like to do kind of a lighter green, so I just add a little bit at a time. I don't want it super green. if anything, I think that looks like more natural. So I usually just do enough till I have a light green, and then here's my frosting over here. Okay, so again, let me turn this music down for a second. I have Cirque du Soleil on. I was trying to find something that would go fittingly with the cooking show, and that's the only thing I could find. So here's my pastry bag. I think it's like either 1M or 2D tip. It's a star tip, so one is just a bigger star than the other. I think the 1M, the star is tighter, so you get like tighter coils. So if you're doing like a flower, it just look like a tighter wound flower. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to describe it. But anyway, so I have my star tip here. Piping with frosting is really, really easy. The first couple of times it was a little bit of a disaster because I couldn't figure out the exact pressure, but once you figure it out, you've got your tip in, you put your frosting in, you twist your bag. It's better to underfill the bag, so really you just want to fill it about like even a third of the half to the way. You want to twist it so that all of the frosting's down here. If you don't do that, or if you fill it too high, when you do put pressure on it, the frosting is just gonna totally explode out of the top, and that's happened many a time to me, so I've learned to just be patient and fill my bag up more, but to have smaller amounts in my bag. All right, so I've got my pretty filled cupcake here. I'm actually gonna get a nice plate for it over here. And, okay, so a tip for using a pastry bag with a tip is you want to start kind of angled up when you are, I don't know if you can see this here. I'm scared to touch my phone because it's really in a precarious position right now. So if I do try to angle it, it's probably just going to fall. So I'm not going to touch it. But I do have my pastry tip angled up a little bit, and you just go around and around. And again, I apologize, you probably can't see this that well. But you just go around, kind of coiling in smaller and smaller coils. It really does look like a pretty flower. There we go. Okay, and another tip is that you want to make sure that the frosting is kind of at a room temperature consistency. Especially with these bags that I use, they do tend to, they'll just break if you put too much pressure on it because the frosting is too hard. So either have them at room temperature, the frosting, or you can zap them in the microwave for the frosting, that is, for like 5 to 10 seconds. Any more, it's just gonna get runny and you're gonna have to put it in the fridge and start all over again. So just do like 5-second increments till you get it to a good consistency where when you do stir it with a spoon, it's easy to stir and you know that it's gonna go through the tip well. So here's my pretty cupcake here, just regular key lime pie cupcake. I usually just garnish them with crystal, like just white sugar crystals, and I have some green sugar that I sprinkle on them too. That's typically what I'll do, and I have one in the fridge to show you. Alright, so here it is. This one has the powdered sugar, some green crystals, and I did put a couple ornamental, can you even see leaves on it? And the leaves are really, really easy to make. There's actually a special pastry tip that makes the leaves really easily. So it looks like something that I put a lot of time into, but because it's a tip that just will pipe these leaves, I can do tons at a time. So usually what I'll do is I'll just spend an afternoon doing ornaments like leaves, and I'll freeze them so that when I do want to use them on a cupcake, I've got different colors and styles to choose from. So that's my cupcake there. I'm going to show you what it looks like, whoops, without the foil here. Just snap this off because it really does look like a little key lime pie. So, whoop, there you can see it's got that pretty graham cracker crust. There is a little bit of the white cupcake that you can see up here, but it really is mostly just the crust, the filling, and the frosting. So this is definitely one of our best sellers. It's really easy to make. I did come up with the recipe myself, but you're welcome to use it, and please get in touch if you would like to order some of these for a special occasion like Valentine's Day, or you don't even really need an occasion. Sometimes it's just fun to order them and have them and surprise your significant other or some coworkers with. So thank you for joining in. This is Annie from Sweet Annie's of Maine. I know that you all are busy, so I really appreciate the time that you took to look at this video. And any questions, either type them out or message me. I will put up the exact ingredient list sometime later today so that you can make these at home. All right, thanks for joining in, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.